Listening to Bad Dog Agility, bringing you training tips, interviews, and news about the great sport of dog agility.
I'm Esteban.
And I'm Sarah, and this is episode 222. Today's podcast is brought to you by hititboard.com. Hititboard.com has the innovative training tools you need for agility. Having problems with the dog walk or A-frame? The Hititboard can fix that. Your dog doesn't like tugging? They'll love the Tug It. Can't move your A-frame around by yourself? The Move It can. Go to hititboard.com and use discount code BDA10 to get 10% off your order. That's hititboard.com.
Today's podcast is also brought to you by OneTDC.com. Dog agility can be hard on your dog's body. Help keep their joints and muscles healthy with OneTDC. 1-tetradecanol complex is a clinically studied blend of unique fatty acid oils that can support your dog's joint health. OneTDC promotes a healthy inflammatory response from head to tail. All of our listeners will automatically qualify for a great OneTDC special offer by purchasing online at BDA1TDC.com. That's BDA, the number 1, TDC.com.
Today, we are very excited to welcome to the podcast 3 members of the Aces High Flyball Team from the UK. We have Jeanette Shelley, Maria Worrell, and Andrew Worrell. They're actually all a family, all members of this amazing flyball team, and they caught our attention on Facebook during Crufts with just some ridiculous speed. They ended up winning at Crufts. So welcome to the podcast.
Hi. Hello.
I'm very excited to have you guys on. Usually I'm very agility focused, but I think especially with social media now, you're always going to see some things from other dog sports. You know, I think right now they just had the Malinois IPO, big IPO competition. So you see those videos floating around. But Crufts is the dog show that has everything, and your video of, I want to say it was the semifinals. Was it the semifinals?
The quarterfinals.
The quarterfinals? Okay, it wasn't even the finals. I did end up watching all of your videos. Every video they had on you guys I watched. But the one that really made the rounds in social media with millions of views, 3.7 million views, Sarah's telling me, was your quarterfinals one. And that's where the camera, the video, couldn't even keep the two dogs, the two teams in the same frame, right? And it was unbelievable. I'd never seen anything like it. And, you know, I got to say, agility people can be a little bit snobby. We say, you know, flyball, that's so easy. What is that? 3-4 jumps all in a straight line? It's not even challenging. But when I saw it, it was so amazing and beautiful. I knew we had to have you guys for the podcast. So I'm glad we were able to find the time to get this done. So first, congratulations on your performance and all of your success. How is it to be a celebrity? Like other people, everyone listening to the podcast, they obviously can't see you, but we have you on a video, so I can see what you guys look like, and you look just like you do in the video. It's amazing. It's like I'm talking with famous people. So, you know, I'm a little starstruck, but what has that been like? What was the social media stuff like? And did that change anything for you guys?
It's in terms of the social media. I mean, it was quite unprecedented, really. The amount of views that all of the videos collectively have received worldwide, and we've received messages from so many different countries. You know, really just sort of offering congratulations and asking questions about the dogs, asking questions about the team and the sport. And it's, you know, for us, it's been really good to be able to highlight flyball. You know, a lot of people do tend to think that it is a glorified game of fetch over 4 jumps. And I suppose to a point that is true. But as with many sports, you do have a lot of technical detail in it. And even so much as how many steps the dogs take in certain parts of the course to help increase speed and things of that nature, and particularly the turn of the flyball box. So, you know, for us, it was fantastic, the social media, because it really highlighted the sport and the skills that the dogs have. And of course, all the handlers in all of the teams that took part in the event at Crufts as well.
I think that's wonderful. Now, is Crufts the biggest event of the year for you, or is it just the most visible event? What's the biggest thing that you want to win if you're in flyball?
So Crufts is a pretty big event, especially obviously for all dog owners. However, in terms of flyball, it's not the biggest event that you would want to win. Either of those events would be sort of the flyball championships, so British Flyball Championships, indoor or outdoor, because obviously there's both outdoor racing and indoor.
That's very interesting because we have the same phenomenon here in agility. So in agility, we have things like Crufts. We have things like here in the United States, we have Westminster, and that's on national television on Fox with over 1 million viewers, right, watching on their television. But that's not necessarily our most prestigious, event. For us, it would be one of the national championships from one of the organizations, or maybe the world championships. The FCI Agility World Championships is probably the most, well, it definitely is the most prestigious international event that we have in agility. And it's still so important, though, to have the things like Westminster. And so for you to have Crufts, it's so interesting to hear you say that people were very interested and that they were contacting you. And so, I hope that you guys keep going out to Crufts. Now, had you been before, and did they feature flyball before as well?
Yeah, they definitely did.
What was different this year? Why was it so different this year? I'm sure you were just as great last year, but this year it went crazy.
Last year, we went into the first race and lost them out. Straight away.
Yeah, we had a bad run last year.
Yeah, it was a bad run. This year, Hustle, the Whippet, had, this was our third year. Shoots had done it the year before as well. So they all got a little bit older. They all got a little bit better. We all gelled a little bit better as well, and we're more confident when we went there. And the dogs just excelled themselves. And obviously, that first draw up against the Bravehearts, we were just, they'd been the big build up, and they were waiting to go. And once we let them go, you knew they were just wanted to get down there, get that ball, and get back to us. And that was. The cameraman struggling to keep up was definitely something that made everybody look. And I don't think my dog featured on the first two or three races, to be honest. They didn't get on once.
Man, I mean, it was just phenomenal. And let's get right to the dogs. So tell us a little bit more about the dogs, because the first thing that we noticed, that probably every agility person noticed, was that they weren't all border collies, right?
No,
so tell us
right.
a little bit about the dogs.
Yeah, so we do have border collies still within our team, and they do still very much dominate the sport over here in the UK, particularly.
Well, how many dogs do you have on a team? Like your team there at Crufts, how many dogs did you carry? And then how do you pick the 4 dogs that are going to compete?
Yeah, so those 4 dogs actually have been racing together for the last 2 years anyway. So that's one of the key things to be able to push in. And in terms of how many dogs we actually took 10 dogs. So we had 2 teams go. Our second team, unfortunately, had a couple of problems and were knocked out in their first round. Many other teams do tend to take 5 or 6 dogs, and they will select from those. But as I say, we do only stick to 4. So if we have a dog that breaks a nail, or they're unwell, or they're just a bit under the weather, then we just kind of take it on the chin and we don't run. Because what we have found is that by running the same 4 dogs consistently, we're much able to, we're much more easily able to make big achievements. Just to give you some sort of scope in terms of Crufts itself, obviously we jointly broke the Crufts record with a 15:20, but that's our more prestigious events, such as the Indoor Championships and some of the BFA tournaments that we attend. We do run in the 14, so it's quite a lot faster. In fact, we just broke the British Flyball Association record a few weeks ago with a 14:77. So we're really pleased with that. But that's only really achievable by keeping to the same routine and allowing the dogs to have the most confidence. It's pretty hard for these guys, They're very slim built dogs. And Whippets by nature are not always the most confident. And some of these guys are running sort of 3.6 seconds, if not faster. When you've got 2 of them coming through a 3 to 4 foot gate, passing with each other, it takes a lot of confidence to do that. So by us maintaining the same formula, the dogs they automatically know exactly what's going to happen. If any of them have a little fluff, then they adjust very well. They just know each other as well as what we do as handlers. So for us, we've found that's the best thing.
That's very interesting. And I want to hear more about the Whippets, because after the event, I got several emails from Whippet people. And they were asking about these dogs because they know what Whippets are like. And it's interesting that you mentioned that maybe they're not the most confident dogs at times, but your dogs ran with extreme confidence. One of the things I like to tell people in agility is, even if their dog is very good or already competing at the national level, when the dog is 100% confident in themselves and in you, they can run at the highest possible level. You know, a fast dog can be even faster. And I think that's what we're trying to strive for in the sport. And when I saw this video, I said, okay, these dogs have it, right? They have ultimate confidence in themselves. They have ultimate confidence in their handlers. They're doing that. And I know it's with a breed that traditionally can struggle with that. So how do you bring that out in that specific breed? And it's good because you also have border collies, so you can kind of make the comparisons. And in our sport as well, border collies are the dominant breed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, firstly, obviously, breeding does play a part. So whenever we're sort of selecting whether it is rescue dogs that we've had a look at or whether it's a litter that we've been looking to breed, then we do obviously look for the most confident pups. But as with any sport, you need to find a good behavioural balance, because that's ultimately, these dogs are pet dogs. And more often than not, they're at home on the sofas, doing what normal Whippets do. So they have to have a good sort of work home balance. So breeding does certainly play one part in it. With regards to our Whippets specifically, I think it's because although we do concentrate specifically on flyball, we actually do take part in a lot of other different activities as well. There's not very many Whippets that will confidently do things like bite jaw, whereas ours do it frequently, at least once a week. And they'll go on the front of the bike in harness and they'll pull. They do used to do hydrotherapy and canicross. A little bit of coursing. So we like to do a lot of varied activities, and what we found with the dogs is that allows them to be a little bit more robust. It allows them to be more confident in various different activities, and I think ultimately that gives them a good level of mental health. Of course, the relationship between the handler and the dog and the team as a whole is crucial, because every stage of their training there cannot be any hiccups. If these guys collide and hit each other because we've missed a step, then that's a big problem. So we simply have to maintain absolute vigilance to ensure that their welfare and their safety comes first all the time. It's an old cliche, but these dogs won't run that fast at each other unless they're completely confident, as you say. So we have to ensure that is absolute paramount in all of their training at all times.
I never even thought about how close they get to each other when one is going down and the other one is coming back.
Yeah, well, there's some of the dogs as well. So we've got our second dog in the team called Shoots, the Whippet. He's very muscular, and as he's taking a step and his legs are going up, all his muscles just protrude out to the side. And there's been times where when he's been crossing the gate with the first dog, you've not been able to see a gap of light between them. They're so confident with passing with each other, they actually will brush each other very gently at full speed. And
luckily for them, I'll add, is that the first dog and the second dog, Shoots, they're father and son. The third dog is the daughter to Shoots, the big red second dog, and Hustle, his sister. So they're all family as well.
Yeah, which also helps because they do a lot of things, a lot of the other activities together, and they have since they were very young. So all of these are things that help to increase that confidence that we're talking about. And it's not just specifically with these four. We have 33 dogs in our team. And we do have many rescue dogs. We have many dogs that we have bred over the last few years, particularly with the Whippet mixes and the collies. And so they all do work particularly well together because they have quite literally been raised together. So we do find that has certainly helped them to be able to tackle any challenge that we throw at them, really.
That is amazing. And what about dogs that I'm going to call over the top? I'm sure that in some litters, you must get dogs that are very active or maybe a little more dominant or independent than the other puppies. What kind of puppies are you selecting for? Are you saying that you're choosing some more of the moderate dogs? Those are your better flyball dogs? Or what about the dogs that have so much energy? Someone comes to you and they says, hey, my dog never stays still. I think they'd be great at flyball. Yeah.
You do tend to find that we do get a lot of people that will approach us with very high drive collies in particular. A lot of these are what we would refer to over here in the UK as working sheepdogs. So these are a lot of collies that are farm bred. and they haven't received the amount of mental stimulation or physical activity that really they should be. As a result of that, what happens much of the time when they're in pet homes is they do get a little bit too, they obviously are too headstrong. They have a lot of vices by the time that they get to us, so they can be quite difficult to handle. But it is more often than not, it is a question of re-educating the owners to be able to provide for them and give that all important mental stimulation. We certainly don't breed for nuts. I will say that. A lot of people think, oh, flyball dogs are crazy. Absolutely not. If I could move the camera around now, which I can't, you would see that, all of the dogs are just crashed out and, perfectly relaxed, normal couch potato whippets. You have to call them 2 or 3 times to get off the chair just to go out to the garden. The difference, of course, is when they're working and, when they get their certain tuggies out, their certain leads, when they're in that environment, then they become a completely different animal altogether. But they still maintain that focus and that control because, an out of control, very hard, very fast, very high drive dog isn't necessarily very workable. Right. And it's also not necessarily healthy for them either, yeah? So a lot of these dogs, they have, lots of dopamine release and lots of chemicals going on, as with any dog sport. And there is a little bit of a stigma attached with flyball, and that, we do make the dogs nuts. And I can promise you that although there are some that are like that, there are also some that are like that in other sports. But no, most of the time, as soon as the dogs, the harness goes away, the dogs come back home and they're just perfectly normal pets, which is exactly what we want to see. Because, as I mentioned earlier, these are primarily, first and foremost, our pet dogs. So, they need to be able to adapt to a Monday to Friday home life when some of us are working or we've got other family chores and things. So they need to have the ability to be able to cope with that and obviously still have the required elements that we need to be able to do well in flyball.
Awesome. So let's talk about speed, because that's obviously the first thing that caught our eye when we saw the video. And if there's one thing that is the most in common between flyball and agility, it's that we want our dogs to be fast. And I'm not sure I've seen an agility dog as fast as these Whippets were in flyball. And obviously very, very different sport. Although you do have, one turn that you have to deal with. Yeah. Confidence, we talked about confidence, and that's clearly a key. But I have met confident dogs who were fine with people and situations and all of that, but they weren't fast. So how do you pair that confidence with training to get the most speed out of the dog?
So many of the exercises that we do are key towards what we call drive work. And obviously the type of dog that we're using, the Whippet, already has a raw ability in that field anyway. So the key thing for us is to be able to use that raw ability to produce the speed, but also then handle the training aspect of dealing with a Whippet, who isn't necessarily always as biddable as, say, for example, a Border Collie or a Spaniel or Terrier. So we do have to look at various different exercises that we do. And we do a lot of things called head-to-heads, where the dogs are racing against each other, be it over a length of jumps, or be it where they're chasing each other down over jumps, and various other activities outside of the sport as well. So sometimes we will use law coursing and things of that nature to be able to, really allow the dogs to enjoy the challenge and enjoy the race with each other. And of course, then, we have the whole area of conditioning, because a dog has got to be physically capable of being able to perform and do the tasks that you're asking them to do. So we do focus very much on health and fitness and keeping the dogs in tip-top condition, because if we were to ask them to do some of these things and they weren't in condition, one, they're not going to be able to perform very well, and of course, more importantly, second is they would potentially have an injury, which is something to avoid. Again, these are our pet dogs, so we absolutely don't want that. So that's really for us, a good fuel, so a good diet, good conditioning, make sure that the dogs have got all the tools necessary to be able to do what you're asking them to do, and then the training itself, which will encourage the speed. And obviously the Whippets, already have that in the raw quantity. But you do have a lot of Border Collies that are also very fast. we can't rule them out. And of our team, particularly the first team, we've only got 2 Whippets. The other 2 are Border Whippets. So they are purpose-bred sports dogs. So they are a mix between a Border Collie and a Whippet. So you get the longevity for the racing, you get the breedability of the Collie, but then you also have the power and speed of the Whippet. So for, the Border Whippet is one of many breeds that have been selectively bred now and found a lot of success, both in flyball and also over here in the UK, you can see them do very well in agility as well.
Mm-hmm.
And very, of course, we've even got a lot of our, we refer to them as lurchers here because they're a Whippet cross. But they do a lot of coursing and law racing and things over here as well, using lurchers, and they're very successful in that field too.
Yeah, the musculature, when I look at the muscles on these dogs, it's unbelievable. They're very, very athletic. It's very, very impressive. As far as drive, do you ever run into dogs that simply won't work very well for the tug? They don't seem motivated for the tug and they're a lot more food driven? Or how does that work?
We don't really got a lot that go for food. We will train with food if that's what the dog needs, but a lot of them are tuggy driven, if not. And some of the older ones, when we started them off, some of the older dogs like Steve and River, who were trained on a ball rather than a tuggy. But yeah, there's dogs that definitely don't want a tuggy or a ball, and yes, we will use food, but we do prefer a tuggy. It's sort of because when you're in a flyball ring, there's potential of 8 to sort of 10 dogs in that ring. It's all very close. We're all quite sort of fired up to race, and you want to, if you get a mistake or a drop ball or an early, you might want to spin that dog round, and it's nice and easy to, if the dogs come straight to you with a tuggy and you're on it, and rather than chasing the ball around somewhere. So it can be a help.
Yes, it's almost like a safety feature as well, because you have got your dog in a contained an area really, whereas a lot of the time we find dogs with who come back for a ball, they'll be running around the back of the ring, shooting the ball around everywhere, trying to get another one, and it just means that the dogs are a lot safer as well, and they're with you, whereas a lot of the time, and to be honest, with the food rewards as well, that they are with you more often than not. But yeah, it totally depends. If the dog prefers whatever method the dog prefers, we will use.
That's interesting. I want to ask a little bit about arousal. So when you have these high energy, high arousal type dogs, is that the state that you try and put them in practice? So you're working through that arousal in practice, or are you trying to keep the dogs more calm in competitions? Like, how do you approach this issue of arousal and getting it just right?
I would say that during training, we really, really don't push any arousal in training, because we focus mostly on their technique. And if you start to add too much arousal and they go, say, a little bit crazy, then they might not get their technique right. They might not be thinking. Whereas we like to keep everything very calm and relaxed. Whereas then when we go to a competition and we know that they're 100% with their training, they're ready to go, that's when we can start to sort of add the pressure, which is what you'll often see and what you've probably seen at Crufts in the lineup. And you see all the dogs going a bit mad and barking and salivating everywhere. But we definitely like to keep our training more controlled, because this will ultimately reduce any sort of injury, as opposed to just a crazy dog doing whatever it wants because it just wants its reward. So we find it much more rewarding for us and the dogs that calm at training and then more aroused obviously at competitions, which naturally comes anyway, because they've got, unlike most training situations, they will have another set of dogs, and those dogs will also be very excited. So it's very different compared to training, because there's just a lot more people, a lot more dogs, there's spectators, and I think the dogs really do pick up on that.
And so then how do you bridge that gap between that kind of calmer practice and that more exciting trial environment? Like, how do you get them to make that transition?
I think, to be honest with you, we don't really do it. The dogs just kind of know. As an example, although the quarterfinal video was the most popular, the one with the most views, we actually, as a team, we weren't actually running that quick in those particular runs. Right, all the way through the tournament, we were only just below 16. So we were running sort of around about 15.8 in all of those runs. And we were just maintaining quite a calm with all of the dogs because we wanted to make sure that we went through. So we knew we had the speed and we just wanted to ensure that we were going to go forward. So we didn't really have to do anything really. We just kept everything quite calm and collected. And then when we went in against Focus, as an example, we did nothing different. The dogs just dropped a whole second off their time. Suddenly they're banging out 15-2s, 15-3s, and I don't think we went above 15-3 in any of those runs because they just knew. And so with dogs like ours and with any high-profile fast flyball team, there isn't really any bridging that we have to do because the dogs will know when they're racing and they know when they're not. Our guys knew that they didn't need to put any pressure on to just go out, run fast and enjoy themselves. But they knew as soon as they started going up against Focus that they had to go quicker. And that was honestly nothing that we did any differently. We didn't push them anymore. If anything, we were actually having to be a bit more maintained. Focus is a team that we race regularly in the British Flyball Association, and we're often in the top division racing them. So, we know that it's always going to be close and tight racing. We can't afford to make mistakes. But the dogs knew, so they recognised each other. They know that they've got a proper race on now, and they just went up into another gear, and suddenly they're knocking 0.6, 0.7 off their times that they've been doing in the preceding days. So yeah, it's a difficult question to answer because I see where you're going with it, but there isn't really a bridge that we do because I say there is this sort of this ideal that we do over ramp the dogs up. And I'm sure that there are some situations where that probably does happen, but we absolutely don't focus on that because to us, if we get them too ramped up and too aroused, then they just lose technique. If they lose technique, then we start losing races. They start making silly errors, and I don't mean the odd spitball, lots of errors. The box turn could be wrong. I mean, these guys are hitting that box at quite a high speed. They have to be able to execute that turn safely. Otherwise, they potentially would cause an injury. We're lucky in the sport that we don't really see any injuries. We've done lots of studies, as there have been within agility as well. So although it looks like the kind of action on the box that would potentially cause, it doesn't really. But if we were to start over-ramping them and getting them too aroused, then, as you would with any dog in any sport, they start to lose their minds and their focus and it all starts to go a little bit wrong.
And I think
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And back to what Jeanette was saying in terms of it is very much natural arousal. And if you look at some of the videos, you can see the dogs looking over to the other lane because they're watching. And you'll see them looking over, and it's funny because some of them will just put in that little bit of extra effort if they know that dog's in front of them. And a perfect example of that is we have some dogs that if we do some training with and we run them on their own, they can run around 4.2 seconds. And as soon as you get them in a racing environment, all of a sudden they're hitting 3.7s, 3.6s, and they just know.
That was literally my question was going to be, because I don't know enough about flyball to know, but if there was a notion of the dogs checking the other lane. So that's super interesting to know that they will increase their speed to win, basically.
Absolutely, yeah.
So where can people find you? A lot of people have been sending me emails about flyball, and I'm saying, no, you need to talk to the flyball experts. Where can people find you online, and where can people train with you in person if they're interested?
Yeah, so we've got a Facebook page, which is at Aces High Flyball. We've also got a Twitter page, which is
the same one,
the same address. But we're actually based obviously in the UK, so we're based in the southeast, so we're just south of London in the Medway towns. But we do have anyone really can just contact us through our Facebook page.
Yeah, and you can also find any sort of surrounding teams on the British Flyball Association website as well. But you'll find us pretty much all over social media if you just type in Aces High, because we like to keep up our social media, and we've got our Instagram as well. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And anyone that emails or messages either of the pages, we've got quite a good response rate. So we always get back to anyone that wants to know anything.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having us.
And that's it for this week's podcast. We'd like to thank our sponsors, onetdc.com and hititboard.com. Happy training.